The beautiful island. There you go. So hello, everybody. I'm going to start again. Thank you so much for attending our webinar for today. Tomai, talofa, noimai, haramai, and welcome. I'll get the friends to our Rights of Rivers webinar. This has been a wonderful opportunity for us as Pacific people and also Indigenous First Nation from Canada to come together. And also, I would like to want to thank you all for being here today. It is a privilege to welcome you all here in this virtual platform. So again, my name is Hereditary Sobek. I am honored to be a moderator for today alongside my co-host moderator, which is Dr. Darlene Sanderson. So a bit about myself. I'm from the beautiful island of the Pacific Island nation of Vanuatu. I'm also privileged that I come from two wonderful tribes from the northern part of Vanuatu, which is on the island of Siarava, from Bule and Tapi tribe. And I serve as the interim executive director of the Pacific Peoples Partnership, where we center our Indigenous and Pacific Islander voices in all the work that we do, just like what we're doing right now. So it is a great honor and respect that I welcome you all with this webinar that we will share and reflect on the rights of rivers and the concept of legal personhood for rivers. So once again, thank you for coming and thank you for being here and sharing your stories with us. Tapiana, thank you, Tomas. So just a quick, before I introduce my co-host, who's going to do a long acknowledgement, the ground rules for webinar, just be respectful. I ask that we do a deep listening and learning and enjoy. So Darlene, I'll give you the stage to introduce yourself, but also this is Dr. Darlene Sanders and also the National Day for Truth Reconciliation. Before we go to our prayer with Elder Darlene.
Hadi, it's a real privilege to be here. I'm calling you from Lheidli today, traditional territory. It's a real blessing to be here. My ancestry is Cree, Anishinaabe, and Métis from Manitoba, originally on my late mother's side. And I'm also Doukhobor Russian on my late father's side. And I really want to pay respects and give thanks to you, each and every one of you, the speakers and everybody that's present, and pay acknowledgement to all of your ancestors before you. Did you want to do a quick round of introductions of the speakers, and then we can go into the prayer?
Yes, I would love to do that.
Well, maybe
go ahead. Maybe we could ask them to do a little bit of introduction for themselves. That would be wonderful. So we can start off with our elder Darlene McIntosh. Would that be very nice? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm an elder and ambassador with Lheidli T'enneh Nation here in Prince George, British Columbia, Canada, because I think we're all over the world. It's absolutely wonderful. And you'd like to be in Prince George today because it's raining like crazy now on our National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, which we've already had 2 events coming into this as a 3rd event. And it's been an interesting day considering, what our day is all about. It's about bringing awareness to the residential schools, the 60 Scoop, the day schools, and everything that has happened in the last 150 years. And it's to honor the missing and murdered children that we found 215 graves a few years ago, and now it's I think it's over 7,000. And so we honor those ancestors that never came to be. And so it's a sad day, but it definitely is a day of awareness. And we wear our orange shirts in remembrance, and we honor our elders who have gone through the residential school that still carry the traumas of what happened to them. and of course the intergenerational trauma that is still continuing. And yeah, so and we gathered today in the rain. It started raining and it's quite cool here. So I am, as I said, an elder with Clayton Tenay Nation. I'm also a cultural advisor at the Aboriginal Resource Centre at the College of New Caledonia. And I'm also the 8th Chancellor of the University of Northern British Columbia and the second Indigenous woman to be in this place. And it's my honor to represent our people the best way possible. My mother was a residential school survivor, going to LeJac along with all of her siblings, and most are not here anymore. Those would be our elders today. And my mom died at 67 and her sisters at late 50s. So it's a remembrance of our 7 generations back too. So that's who I am.
Thank you so much. So we will go to quickly before we start our program, and the next person I will ask them to introduce themselves will be Edgar. If you're there, it'd be nice for you to just before we go into our program for today.
My name is Edgar Hinge. I am from the northern part of Pentecost. My custom name on my mother tongue language is Mata. Mata means I, and Sangul is number 10, and that is my custom name. And I am a museum guide in Vanuatu. So I'm glad to be a part of this program, and I hope we'll enjoy what we'll be doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Thomas, Edgar. And our next speaker that will just quickly introduce himself is Pitt Erickson. Elder Chief. If you're there.
Hi, good afternoon from Nakesley.
Mhm.
When it's snowing here.
Mhm.
So we have change of seasons going on, and they're always vitally important, and also an opportunity to look forward to a new season. So I'd like to thank you all for taking your time out on this important day. And you can see I'm wearing my red, orange t-shirt. So as part of the then when we're trying to heal, we celebrate. And so I try to avoid a lot of the history, because we've gone through the history and we know the history. And so I'm trying to look forward by celebrating, and it's an opportunity. And anytime it comes to dealing with water, and I think if we can get it back to that basic unit of water, the basic, the very essence of life, and the way we, our ability to survive on this planet. The Yinkadene are people of the earth, and I think everybody on the earth understands that without water, we would not be here. So it's an important discussion, and I really want to thank you for your energy today. Masi.
Thank you. Steve. Okay, so our next introduction will be from Dr. Rawiri.
Kia ora koutou. Ko Rawiri Tinirau tōku ingoa. My name is Rawiri, and we just rushed off to find something orange so that we stand in solidarity with you folk. So we found an orange hoodie. This is Manaki, and this is Ata, and they're going to be helping me with my presentation today.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
And our next one on the list is Mona Polacca.
Communia. Hi, I'm Mona Polacca. I am speaking to you from the traditional land and territory of the Tohono Nation, based in an area called Tucson, Arizona, in the United States. And I am Havasupai, Hopi, and Tewa tribal nations, and I'm happy to join you all. I'm really excited to hear what everyone has to say today on behalf of the rights of rivers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And then we have Senator Rosa Galvez.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I'm so honored and humbled to you count me among your speakers. So I've been living in Canada for the last 47 years, but originally I come from the Andes in Peru. I am a civil engineer as a profession, and as such as that, I've been working trying to restore environments that were degraded due to infrastructure projects. And my walk of life in my career has brought me to many places around the world and be in contact with many indigenous people. I just came back from New York, where I was with indigenous people from Brazil, from Colombia. And so it is always so interesting to listen and to learn and to mourn, because colonization happened recently in Canada, but it happened long time before in Latin America. So it's sort of like I have heard already some of these stories, and we are mourning, but mourning has to have faces, and we have to pass to the reconciliation, which is so important. And I'm so happy that we are finally marking that day in Canada. I'm speaking from Ottawa today. Thank you. Looking forward to hear all of your stories.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for a quick introduction. I'm just honored to be able to have all of your faces here and be able to just hear the wonderful stories that are going to happen right now. So we're going to go back to Dr. Darlene, my co-host, and she's going to do our land acknowledgement before we go to Elder Darlene for our prayer.
I am calling from the Lheidli Tinirau traditional territory, and I would like to invite everybody that's participating to put in the chat section who they are and where they come from and where they're calling from, so that we acknowledge the ancestors of the place that we are situated. I was also asked to briefly speak about the significance of the Truth and Reconciliation recommendations, and we've heard from Elder Darlene about that, and also Pete about that as well. But what we're hoping to do is not only address the historical injustices with responsibility and accountability, and promote healing and understanding through better relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities through education and systemic change. And it really started 500 years ago with the papal bulls and the doctrine of discovery. But with the churches and governments working together to start residential schools to erase language and culture. But now the healing process has begun. There is so many little children that were stolen from the families. For those of you that are tuning in that are not familiar with our history, which resulted in huge trauma, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. This Orange Shirt Day was created to honor the school survivors and their families, to remember all those little ones who never made it home. There are 94 calls to action, which include health, education, and the justice system. But today we're looking to uphold Indigenous laws, practices, and values that protect water and all of life. Indigenous laws are what are called our original instructions from the Creator, and they're based on the laws of nature embedded in our language and culture. We're connecting this day to the reclaiming of Indigenous laws about water and life. It's a pathway to health and healing for all future generations of people, plants, and animals. And once again, I want to thank everybody for being here. So with that, I would like to invite Elder Darlene to open this with a prayer. And I just really feel blessed that you would be able to do that for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Darlene. Before I get into the prayer, I just was asked to say a little bit about who we are. You know, we all come from different parts of the country, and we honor each other. We honor our elders. We honor our knowledge holders, which are so very important. We had just lost two of our language holders, a mother that had passed away, and her daughter who was in a tragic accident like a week later. So it's created a really big hole in our community. And you know, when our elders pass away, those stories, the book is closed and we can never open them again. In the Causeway, we had Elder Lillian pass away, Lillian Sam, and she was such a knowledge holder in her own right. And so we have to remember to ask our parents, our grandparents, our families about the history, and we need to remember it, and better to ask early rather than later. So our nation is called the Lheidli Nation, and Lheidli meaning where the two rivers, they're joined together, the Nechako and the Fraser River, and Tene is of the people. And so our little bit of history is that we have been on our traditional lands over 9,000 years, as supported by lithic evidence. We know we've been longer, but this is actual fact that we are supported by that lithic evidence. And the changes that have taken place over thousands of years supports the enduring strength, courage, and fortitude of our peoples. We're still here, and we're going to be here another 9,000 years. Our governance through the Batlats brought balance and harmony with our other brothers and sisters of other First Nations people. Lheidli Tene's clans are Frog, Wasilyu, Grausutsut, Beavertsa, and Bear Sus. Through this system, we know who our family connections are, which many different cultures will follow the matriarchal line through our oral history, because we didn't write things. It's all oral, passed on through our Batlats. The use of the legends told of our travels, our hunting and fishing territories, our trading practices with all peoples. And we say, let us remember and hold steadfast in what Creator's blessed us with, and that is our traditional territories. We are the stewards and the protectors of 4.3 million hectares of our traditional land in our area here. So our ancestors have always welcomed people to our territories. And if it weren't for most of our ancestors, the colonialistic people that came in, they'd probably be dead because they did not know how to live on the land. And with our ancestors who had a big, kind heart, they helped them through their trials and tribulations, which indirectly affected us for being kind. So on behalf of Lheidli Tene's elders, our youth, our community members, and Chief and Council, it's absolutely our honor to welcome each and every one of you to our traditional territories. And we honor each and every one of you from where you come from. So when we come to this space, we've got 34 people here, we need to create that space for truth to come out, to be supported, and to feel safe in order to do that. So we always open sacred space with a prayer. You know, we come to the Zoom, each and every one of you. We come as individuals, But when we come together and become one. So we're all the same, no matter where we come from, what color we are, what nationality we are, what culture we come from, we become one. And so we look through the eyes of being one with everybody. So today marks a day of, our truth and reconciliation. And we talk about what is your truth and how do you reconciliate that? And usually with Indigenous people, they think we need to reconciliate. We need to come forward to do it. But no, we open the door and we need the colonial people to come to our door and start that reconciliation that they should have done many, many years ago. So when we think about our environment, we stand up in the morning, we get up, go outside, we stand in the east direction. Well, what happens in the east direction? That is where the sun comes up every morning. So when the sun comes up, we feel the heat on our body, maybe a little bit of wind blowing and caressing us, like feathers caressing us. And we look around and we see the beauty of Mother Earth. We hear birds singing, maybe water flowing, and the wind is telling us something because that's our ancestors talking to us. But we need to be still, to open up and listen to what they're saying to us, to guide us. And then we take that beautiful deep breath all the way down into our feet. And our feet sink into the beautiful, rich soil of Mother Earth. And we can smell the richness. We can feel it between our toes. And there she grounds us into today and into this very moment that's taking place here now. How much more intimate can you get with your environment is when our beautiful trees breathe out, we breathe in. When we breathe out, they breathe in. That is an intimate connection with our beautiful mother who sustains us every day on this earth plane, giving us everything we need. But how many times do we think about that? We're present into what the greater energy is all about, because the way society goes is about me, me, me all the time. And we need to drop that down, let Mother Earth take that and transmute it to sharing equally with everybody. So as we bow our heads just for this moment in time, and we take that beautiful cleansing breath throughout our whole body, breathing into our body, acknowledging the true essence of who we are. And then we light that light within ourselves, and then we let it shine out. And then we connect with everybody. And then there's this huge, beautiful light that encompasses us all so that we are safe and we can speak our truth. So we ask the Creator, the grandfathers and the grandmothers, the ancestors of all cultures, come be with us this evening. Surround us with the energies of our ancestors. Let us hear you in the songs of healing and the dance of strength. Let the waters teach us, allowing humans to match the ebb and flow of life as we let nature take its course, filling streams, rivers, lakes, and the ocean as the rain falls upon us from the sky. The waters refresh our spirits as the waters are life. Creator, hear our prayers. Thank you for this beautiful day on Mother Earth. And thank you for the gift of community. Thank you for bringing all who are present, ready and willing to work towards building a strong relationship with each other, and most important, willing to make a powerful commitment to self and those around us. Today, we honor the waters as we listen deeply to what the energy of water is saying. How do we protect our pristine waters for this future 7 generations? We become the stewards of our waters, making sure no pollutants, poisons our waters. So we call on the grandfathers and the grandmothers to be with us today, honoring the waters and listening to the waters. The Lheidli T'enneh Nation welcomes you to our vast traditional territories. For thousands of years, we the people have been blessed by Creator in having the Fraser and the Chaco rivers join their energies, flowing to the coast and emptying into the great ocean. The waters give us life and cleanses all of who we are. The pristine waters quench our thirst, wash our bodies, our mind, and our soul. The water sustains the life of our people by bringing the salmon back to us in their spawning ritual. Creator, may you bless the water and those who send their love, light, and protection to the waters that gives us life. Without water, we cannot live. Creator, hear our prayers. Creator, hear our prayers. Snechalia, all my relations, thank you.
Chloe.
Thank you so much, Elder Darlene, for that beautiful prayer and word to us, encouraging us and to coming together of unity and connecting together, just like, the water connects us all. I'm from the biggest body of water in the world, the South Pacific. And so as we go from New Zealand all the way, Aotearoa, all the way to Vanuatu, to the same ocean that flows all the way to North America. So thank you so much. Now, if we can go to Edgar, who will be giving us a demonstration, if that is what he's been planning on doing, of the sun drawing, and something that he might be able to talk a little bit more on that, of how that connects us with water and land.
So now, with all these drawings, the original name of our drawing is Batu Uli Uli. Batu means head, and Uli Uli means writing. And this is how we communicate the evidence of a history, a written language, and the others of both men, women, and kids. But this Batu Uli Uli, it is just the way how we tell story with evidence. The Batu Uli Uli of river or water. So all the time, our creator in Vanuatu, in my mother tongue language, we call him Batutuna, God. He's the creator of everything, including water or river that we have. And also, when we talk about water, water is another creator is a healer. It transports us in a way the current goes. And also, water is a power. Water that we're having, it gives us energy. And water in life, we are all the time. Without water, we won't be here. And water is everything that we're having in life. This is a drawing of a running water or drawing of a river that flows to give us power so that each of us living a community, we have to enjoy, we have to love, we have to help each other in a way that we should be all one as one very big community all the time. Therefore, a custom drawing of a water, it talks about the way how we live, a connectivity, but we do believe without water, there's no life. So we call it why. That's a language from North Pentecost. And now, I'd like to play a sound of a water that flows or runs. So water goes, sound of a water goes on like this. A sound that comes our nation Vanuatu, a water that comes our nation Vanuatu. It comes our whole world, all the Pacific countries. We become one only in the way we respect our water, we protect our water, we love our water, and we need water. And water is always life in our daily life. Water is our power. Water is our healer. And water is always the everlasting life. We need water. Without water, we won't be here. And water is a given thing that we have to use water in a perfect way of using our water to flourish, to reach each of our life in every corner of our world, so that water is always there wherever we're going. Water is life, water is a world. From the northern part of Pentecost, we call it Wai. Wai means something that comes from a cloud, it goes down to a ground. It waters of plant to be growing well, so that we should live forever in a happy community. Thank you very much indeed. Tabiana.
Fabiana Raivatota. So I want to thank Edgar for the beautiful sun drawing. As you know, Vanuatu's sun drawing is protected, and we're just pleased that Edgar can share with us this wonderful creation, and it's a blessing to have you with us today, Edgar. So thank you so much. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next speaker, who's going to be Hit Erickson, who is the Dakelh Hereditary Chief, who's going to give his presentation or speech on the roles of river in the culture and any stories that he wants to talk to us about. Thank you.
So in the very people we are, the Dakelh Nation, which includes communities from Algacho in the south to Dakelh in the north, we're absolutely dependent on water, not only for life but also for travel. In fact, like a lot of our months, like the month of November, it means the name of the month is that we traveled half of the month by water, and then the water would freeze, and so everything in our culture, the returning of the salmon, our most important food source, to medicine. And I think the lesson I want to teach today is about medicine. And in most of our medicines, water plays the role as the media for administering different plants and different tinctures to people when they're ill. And the actual preparation of the medicine was developed from our understanding that water in itself is spiritual. So I don't like using the word spiritual because in our culture, spiritual starts relating back to church. I just associate those words. A lot of people don't, but I do.
Yes.
But we have an understanding that water in itself has a spiritual being. And so when you get water for medicine and you go to a spring that's been unfettered by humans, not polluted by humans, that's shared with every other animal on the earth, you go to that stream or that spring, and the direction of the water even becomes important. And as you take your water, you have to ensure that you follow the flow of the water. You never interrupt the flow of the water as you collect it to make medicine. So you use the vessel you're using, and you actually scoop the water in the direction of the flow as to not to disturb the spirit of the water. If you do it the other way, the likelihood of you getting successful medicine is reduced severely, for the simple reason is that the water itself becomes disturbed. And so we had two parts of medicine, and a lot of people, you call it shaman, or shaman, you call them medicine people or medicine workers, but we also had spiritual workers that had a far different thing. And where they came together is their understanding of water and the complete role that it plays within our lives, and that you can if you obey the rules of water, it's a great value. And if you disturb that water, even the slightest, then the water won't do its part. And that's why I worry, and that's one of the reasons giving water its own structured identity within our current situation is going to be vitally important, because we still have a society that says you can slightly pollute water. You can use water as long as you only slightly damage it. And we know in our hearts that you can't even disturb it with your hands without degrading its effect on your life. So trying to get that through to people. I sit on the BC Water Table, which is a governing body that we're trying to make up, and we've secured $100 million, and everybody sort of puts their hands up because we have this money to protect water, but we're actually not talking about the water now. We're talking about all these programs to do with water, but not the water itself. And if you want to heal as a people without reverence to the very spiritual bodies that gave you the life in the first place, you're not going to be able to heal. And in looking at and working, I actually in my profession right now, I'm a hatchery manager, so I assist salmon. We take salmon eggs and we hatch them, and then we put them back in the wild. We try to not interfere in the whole cycle of life of salmon, just in areas that they're struggling at. So we assist them for about 6 months. So we collect them in August, and we release them between May and June. So we try not to interfere to any great extent, but it's funny when I work with people in my profession even, and they say, we're going to do this. And I said, what about the water? And they always look at me going like, what about the water? We're going to do this. And I said, I understand that you want to help. I said, but you cannot, do surgery with a 3-foot sword. You have to ensure that to help the salmon, you don't destroy the water. Otherwise, it in 4 years, there'll be nothing for the salmon to return to. And the other importance about getting water recognized as a being is because right now we have a mine to the north of 2 mines to the north of us. We have pulp mills south of us. We have a dam on a complete river on the Nachaco. There's proposals now on the last remaining free water we have to put 2 nickel mines. But not only the nickel mines, the same place where our salmon spawn, they're proposing another gas pipeline, right and through 74 kilometers, I think, crossing 32 creeks. And they keep saying, but we're not damaging it, Pete. We're not damaging it. And and it's really hard to say, look at the people that are dying from all of the different diseases that, no people don't understand. And they don't associate degrading water with the fact that people are dying on the riverbanks. And it's really frustrating to have to be the bad person in trying to stop industry or stop pollution or all of these climate change or climate initiatives, and all of a sudden we're the bad person. We become the bad people for trying to practice our knowledge and our understand and our deal, because we've always said that no matter what it is, whether it's salmon, we have a deal with them. They will do their part in offering us sustenance, but we also have to ensure that their world, like we have a very strict rule on how to care for salmon in their habitat. And we've let our side down because we assumed that the newcomers were, they knew how to manage salmon also, because they took it over but so we gave up our side of the bargain, and our salmon have died out remarkably fast. And they keep saying, we don't understand this. We don't understand why the salmon are dying. And I'm trying to say, well, put up my, I know why our salmon are dying, because we're not doing our part. And I really think that in order to we have to start now enforcing are the rules that we were given, that we lived by for 10,000 years at least. And we've been in Nakalli since the Stewart River ran the other way, or Nakalko. It ran into Stewart Lake and then out through the Babine system. And it changed just over 10,000 years ago. And that's come. I even have professors now tell me, you couldn't have lived there. There was three miles of ice on top of you. I went, well, we must have liked it because we were here. Like, we could tell you stories about the river running the other way. We can show you on the river where we used to fish when the fish came the other way. And it's frustrating. And so, and that's the other thing is that because of colonization, we have this belief that, some of our knowledge it's a legend. But now that I've got a fairly, like I said, I'm 64 years old, and I'm finally realizing that the reason that we're, not every part of our culture was ingrained in us. Like people, suffering residential school, suffering through churches, suffering through government, literally not being citizens. My mom, when she was born, couldn't vote. I was actually made an Indian when I was 86. They said, Pete, you're now officially an Indian. But through all of that, there's certain things that were driven into us, certain rules, certain very knowledge, and it's only coming now to that I'm going like, now I know why, they didn't tell us everything there, there is to know or to try to know part at all, because it was lifelong learning that we never got the opportunity to have. But there's certain rules and certain vital knowledge that they've given us, and I'm starting to recognize that's to come now. I'm not shy of stopping people on the road, saying, no, you're not hurting that river now. These are the new rules, and we do that now, and it's and I really think, like I said, in getting like-minded people to start forward with those with the work needed to bring in recognition, because the best example of First Nations knowledge and then medicine turning itself off, in British Columbia, we have a tree called the yew tree, extremely effective in treating cancer. It was so effective that the government gave the entire right to the yew tree to a pharmaceutical company. Well, guess what? You don't hear about this yew tree medication, because the yew tree said, hey, just a sec, you didn't get our permission. And we've seen it time and time again. A lot of the times, like it's just it's a Dakelh thing, but you can't sell medicine. And as soon as you do, the medicine's the one that decides, and it doesn't work. And I'm not saying it, it becomes totally ineffective, but you don't have that the total value that you could have if you followed the rules. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elder Chief Pete. That's very, very wonderful to know, and especially the very connectiveness that, your people have with the river, and also so many distractions that are happening. And I'm so thankful that we're here to learn from each other and hearing of what, how other people are protecting, and how the rivers and what they're learning, and what we're learning. Obviously, I'm learning something new today, but a tree that's now no longer there, and that's very devastating. So thank you so much for that. And now we're going to go to Dr. Rawiri. I think he has a presentation to give to us when you're ready. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. Tuatahi e mihi atu ana kia koutou ngā kai kōrero I hora I o koutou whakaro I tēnei rā. Firstly, I just want to acknowledge Elder Darlene McIntosh for the blessing that kicked us off today, as well as to you, Mere, for chairing our gathering, as well as Edgar and Pete. Thank you for sharing some really beautiful kōrero narration around the importance of wai, of water. For us here in Aotearoa, what we're going to do is share a short presentation about our awa, our river, the Whanganui River, and some of the things that has been happening here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So I'm not sure if my presentation made it to you, Darlene, but I can share my screen if that is easier. So our presentation today is about Te Awa Tupua, which is a values-based framework for our river, the Whanganui River. So a little bit about our river. Our river is the most navigable of all the rivers in Aotearoa, New Zealand. It's the third longest river with a catchment of around 7,380 kilometres squared. It begins on the northern slopes of Tongariro, which is a mountain. It flows northwest through an area called Taumarunui, and then it flows south to the river mouth Whanganui, where we reside. Along this particular river, we have several iwi or nations that have whakapapa or genealogical connections to this river system and to the lands that surround it. Yeah, we've been battling with our government for a very, very long time. Since the late 1880s, that's when our people launched the first of many petitions to our parliament around some of the things that were happening on the river. And, you know, within those petitions, there's always a call for the connection of the river and the people to be enhanced. What was happening at the time was that a lot of the customary fishing structures were being removed from our river, and of course those were being removed to make way for paddle steamers to head on up into the interior and to take advantage of the tourism opportunities that were happening at the time. Also, we had instances of parts of the river being vested within His Majesty the King, stones from the river being taken for the creation of highways and roads, and then other things happening as well as, you know, the assertion of our tribal rights, not only over our river, but also our lands, which culminated in a couple of things happening. First was the Waitangi Tribunal release of the Whanganui River Report, which endorsed that inalienable connection between our people and our river. And then secondly, a deed of settlement that had been reached between our tribes as well as the New Zealand government, which was really about starting again, having a different sort of conversation around how we go about protecting this river catchment. That photo was taken on the day that that particular deed of settlement was signed between the Crown and our people. So there are two parts to the settlement. One which acknowledges that relationship between the people and the river, but the other one is around how do we provide for the health and well-being of both. And so this presentation is going to touch on those things. The first is around how do we restore the mana or the prestige of this particular river system. One of the elements within the settlement framework is legal personality, and it's this particular mechanism that has drawn worldwide attention, where the river is now considered a living, indivisible whole, and has that, I suppose, that, you know, we've always seen this river as our ancestor, and now that particular view is protected legally. And so when this was first being mooted by our people to the New Zealand government, it was very difficult for the lawyers of the Crown to get their head around what it means to give legal personality to a river. And we're starting to see that also happen in Aotearoa, where a mountain has been given legal personality, a forest has been given legal personality. And so that was quite difficult for them to sort of envisage that these things could be people from a legal perspective, but it's one that our people, really did push to ensure that that got over the line, to acknowledge that these are tupuna, these are our ancestors, and that we have those genealogical connections to them, and that we need to see them as living whole beings. More importantly, though, we believe, is the legal entrenchment of these intrinsic values. We call them tupua te kawa. And there are 4 of them, and very briefly, I'm going to ask Manaki to explain them to you in our language, and then you can see there for each of them, it's written in our language, and then there's also an English translation for you. Pea te kawa tuatahi.
Ko te kawa tuatai, ko te awa te mātāpuna o te oro.
He hatuna whakamārama.
Ko te awa nganui e pina waiora, e wāngai ana i a māpau, ana urinu o maire ai o na taataa. E kāngo ki ai mo te tini o maru. Ko maru te ato te wai Māori me ngā uoroto.
So he's just explaining that the river is a source for sustenance, whether that's spiritual or physical, and we say both. But in terms of that spiritual sustenance, he is paying due regard to one of the deities that lives within our waters, and his name is Maru. Hea te kawa tuarua, hea tōna whakamārama.
Ko te kawa tuarua, e rere kauma te onui, ma te kāwi maunga ki Tangaroa.
Korero tonu.
Ko tai tonu te aurere atua na mai tōna pūtake ki te pūa.
So the second intrinsic value talks about the river system being one whole. For many generations, the river has been divided up and governed by different entities, mainly local authorities, and now that stops because we have to view the river in its entirety, and that things that might happen in one part of the river will certainly have an impact on things that happen in another part. Te kawa tuatoru.
Ko te kawa tuatoru, ko te awa koe.
Rero tonu.
He onanga tō te iwi ki te awa tupua, mēnā ka ora te awa, ka wai oranga te iwi.
So we believe that there is an inalienable interconnection with and responsibility to the river and its entire system, and that when the river is well, our people will also enjoy health and wellness. Te kawa o kamutunga.
Ko te kawa toa ngā mangaiti, ngā manganui, e ono kauana, ka tupu, ai awa tupua. Ākoa e awa ko tai, e maa ngā wai ka tere ki roto ki ai.
So there are a lot of different entities that have interests in this particular river and communities, and together we have to make it work. And that common purpose is to restore the health and well-being of the river. So that's another intrinsic value. These things are so important to us because as a result of these being legalised, no one can get out of acting individually or acting alone. Everyone has to work together to ensure that this river is restored to what our ancestors knew it to be. Another mechanism of this particular settlement is the establishment of Te Pautupua, which is the human face and voice for the river. Here we have 2 people that are jointly appointed to a single role, and their job is to ensure that those intrinsic values are upheld. They act and speak on behalf of the river when required, and they promote and protect that health and well-being of the river. We have a saying within our people, kaue kōrero mo te awa, engari kōrero ki te awa, that you shouldn't speak about the river, you should speak to the river. And so this, the ability to have this particular role put into the legislation has become so important because they do act as that face and voice for the river system. A strategy group has also been established under the settlement. It comprises of representatives from different tribal nations, authorities, as well as government entities, power company. We also have Fish and Game there and other interest groups, and their job is to develop a strategy for the river system, and that is Te Heke Ngahuru, which has been developed. It's in its infancy. There's a lot of work to be done, but the great thing about it is having all of those people at the one table ensures that they all have particular regard for the strategy that has been adopted and implemented by the strategy group. Any part of the river that was assumed to be in Crown ownership has now been vested. Those legal rights have been vested in the river itself and are exercised by that human face and voice of the river. It also acknowledges those rights of our particular tribal nations. And yeah, it's another one for our people and for our river. A contestable fund has been established also to support those health and wellbeing initiatives for the river. It is administered by the face and voice of the river and is open to many groups to have a go at applying and to establish those kaupapa initiatives that are important for our river and its health and wellbeing. Those are all the river-based initiatives, but we also have to think about how will the prestige of the people also be restored. So there are a number of elements, including an acknowledgement and apology by the Crown, a relationship agreement with different Crown entities, ensuring that our customary activities and cultural redress are protected and enhanced, also acknowledging the new governance arrangements that are now in place for the river, and also sort of pointing towards how things might be implemented in other settlement matters as well. So there's been, as I say, a lot of things that have happened since the signing in 2014 and 2017. Things were enshrined into law, and there's been a whole lot of things that have been happening, including river and waterway monitoring and reconnection for our people. Thinking about the way that we grow our leadership, so succession is really, really important. Sharing some of our learnings with the world through different forums, but also growing our at-home leadership to ensure that we have the people in place to move things forward. Ka tira. E mihi atu ana, thank you very much for your time, and it's just wonderful to be part of this kaupapa, this initiative. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you so much, kia ora, Rawiri. It's a beautiful presentation, and thank you for the two helpers. It's so nice to see them talk in Maori. Te reo. Thank you, and we will go to, I know there are some, we have some few questions from our audience, but we're going to wait until we get to the end because we have a couple more speakers. So I'm hoping, and of course I've been learning a lot just within this couple of speakers that we've had already. Of course, with even starting with our prayer, it's just been so much learning. So we're going to go to Mona Polacca, and she's from the Indigenous Environmental Network and International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers in North History. She's going to talk to us about what she wants to present and the importance of river. Thank you so much, Mona.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be able to talk to you all today on this important, very important element of life, the water. And I've been a part of the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers, which is a council of Indigenous women from different parts of the world who have been together. We are celebrating our 20 years of being on the ground and working throughout the world to bring the message and to exercise our moral authority as Indigenous grandmothers, to be a gentle reminder about the sacred original instructions and how we are to take care of life here on earth, especially all of the 4 divine elements of life: the water, the air, the fire, and the earth. And because water we call our first foundation of life, because as women we carry our unborn in water in our womb, so we call that our first foundation of life. And of course, when we come into the world, that is one of the elements that we all depend on for life. But not only us as human beings, but all of life on Mother Earth: the plant life, the animal life, water life, all of these life forms that we share our home here with. And so I'm also working with the Indigenous Environmental Network as the Indigenous Water Ethic on the Indigenous Water Ethics Initiative. And in both of these roles, the work is to bring Indigenous influence and protection of water, and to have voice as Indigenous people in governance and law and policy. And our work with the Indigenous communities is to create models of tribal governance and policies that are in balance with our original instructions, or what some call the natural world and natural law. And as Indigenous people, we are the people who are the most far removed from the existing policies and governmental decision-making in regard to access and rights. And we are the most impacted. And we require mechanism for active and meaningful participation in all the decisions related to the waters. Not only surface waters, but the subterranean waters. We know that there are underground rivers, lakes, and streams that are, as well as the aquifers, that are very important to, the whole system of water. Not only the underground rivers, lakes, and streams, but also we were concerned, and we mentioned the we say from the ridge to the reef, from the tops of the mountains, of the whole watershed that comes from the snow runoff, or runoff from the rains and the rain seasons that come down, and they're all interdependent. This whole system of the rivers and the waters are all interconnected. Just as we as Indigenous people always say that we are all related. And just as I've heard by some of the other speakers previously are saying this is our belief. This is how we have existed in this world. And so it's important for us to have this conversation, as well as to be able to share this kind of message with others who have not, who are not aware of these things. I once asked my senator here, a late our late Senator John McCain, I asked him, what is it, why is it that when we bring our concerns about water to the government and ask to be included in the decision making, and where we say water is sacred, water is life, why is it that they cannot seem to understand that and base their decisions, laws, and policy making on that fact? And what he told me was that politicians don't recognize that word sacred. And also, when you also talk about spirituality, they're not concerned about that in their decision making. So what he told me was, maybe you need to think of some other way to describe it. And I couldn't think of any other way to describe it. I don't know any other way to describe that water is our life. I mean, it's within us. The saying is that we have maybe 80% of our body is made of water. And how can any individual deny that fact, that if I don't have that water in my body and my system, I will not live. So the words that we are sharing as Indigenous people, when we talk about water as being sacred, water being, having spiritual value, I say, how can you look at these bodies of water that you call holy, like the river Ganges, the river Nile, the river Jordan? Those are recognized and called holy water, holy rivers. So how can you deny us as Indigenous people that right, that all of the water, we're saying all of the waters are sacred, not just these designated holy waters that are in another part of the world, but all waters. So how can you deny that? And so those are some of the things, that I've brought to the table in things, in discussions that I've had, and that we are also we're looking at one of the recommendations that we make to the Indigenous communities is, whenever they're confronted with a proposal or they're finally given notice that there's going to be some industry development in their area that's going to impact their water source, we recommend that they review the existing record of how that industry upholds their existing agreements with other landholders throughout the world before you enter into any agreements to their proposals. And there should be full acknowledgement, of course, of the free, prior, and informed consent, as well as acknowledgement with special provisions that uphold our treaty rights, and that they be included in governmental or industry agreements. And of course, we are faced with the greatest threats of the greed of the industry, the corporate greed that poisons our water and disrupts our treaty rights to sustain our way of life. And when people talk about our way of life. It's our historical, spiritual, cultural existence as people. That includes, our relationship to our home place, our land that we live on, and how we all have our origin stories of our that establishes our connection to that place. And in those places, there are our sources of water. Our people were not dumb. They were placed, or we say we were placed there by the Creator in these places we call home, our places of origin. And so there was a water source there. There were certain waters that we understood to be our healing waters. There may have been springs that were there that we knew we could go to for healing, to bathe in or to drink from there. They were healing. Then there's the waters that were there for us for our daily use, household use, domestic use, and waters that we use to for our plants, our gardens, our food. Fish that were in the waters that we lived off that and still do. I tell people we still live this way. We are still living in as self-sufficient as possible. And what good is water if you don't have clean water for your subsistence? So the water rights that many of our tribes have or have fought for or are fighting for to establish their water rights, it should be understood that everyone needs to have a water source wherever you live. And it's unfortunate that the developers sometimes choose a site that maybe has no real water source, that they're faced with the need to create sources of water. Like here in Arizona, where I'm from, it's desert land. We have the Colorado River that flows through the state on the western border, and the rest of the state in central Arizona and southern Arizona, they do not have a source of water. So what has been done is there has been a canal that pumps water from the Colorado River, and it's a canal that carries water into central Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, a megatropolis, and on south to Tucson, Arizona, where I'm from, where I live. And so these water sources are being seriously over allocated. So they've over allocated the water from the Colorado River so much that the river doesn't flow all the way into the Gulf of Mexico as it once did. So these are some of the concerns that we have with our water, and we are continuing to do this work. And I really I'm so happy to meet the rest of you and hear what you've had to say. And I'm just glad to know that there are others who are in this effort. And I want to thank you, say Hanaga, for standing up for water and to create a meaningful way for us to be able to continue to have our livelihood on our homelands with the water. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mona. That was wonderful to hear about the work that you're doing and you continue to do. And I think those questions that you did, ask the late senator from Arizona, it's amazing. I mean, that it is very true, but why shouldn't the rest of the water in the world be holy? Why can't, And so that's something that we can take with and really think about it, because, there's nothing else that I take from this conversation so far. That's a very profound question. So thank you so much. And we're gonna go to our last speaker. Thank you for all the speakers who came forward. We will have very soon here a panel of some questions, but we are going to hear now from our Senator, Senator Rosa Galvez. Thank you so much.
Hello, good evening. I would like to acknowledge that I'm speaking from the city of Ottawa, which is built on the unceded land of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people. I am here in my Ottawa residence, which is a very short distance from the Ottawa River. The Ottawa River goes through several communities along the Ontario and the Quebec border, providing important ecological services, including for agriculture, energy, recreational activities. It's also host to one of the most biological diverse ecosystem in the region and is home to at least 24 imperial species. But I'm also privileged to live on the banks of the St. Lawrence River, the mighty St. Lawrence, at my family residence in Lheidli in Quebec. I understand the benefits of healthy rivers and ecosystem, and I have worked, as I mentioned, my entire career as an environmental engineer and researcher, finding solutions to better protect natural, but also restore deteriorated water environments. Now that I'm a senator at the Parliament of Canada, I made it my duty to advocate for a stronger environmental and climate legislation. This crisis, the biodiversity loss, the ocean acidification, pollution, global warming are all interconnected. And they are all starting with the fact that polluters don't pay and that we allow polluting, as previously Chief in British Columbia mentioned. Canada needs to do a better job at protecting nature. I'm so happy to hear stories across the world. Across the world, we see rivers are a source of life for an innumerable amount of communities and ecosystems. We should be able to drink their water, to swim in their waters, and to fish on them. More just an important and precious natural resource, water, as we all have mentioned, is a source of life for all living species and is central to the balance of ecosystems. Access to drinking water, as the previous speaker talked in the Colorado River, access to drinking water is an essential human right, and if we are to live healthy and dignified lives. With our planet under the threat from all these crises mentioned, it is high time for us to shift our perspective on nature and start prioritizing the well-being of the natural world. We have the natural world, inside we have our society, and inside we have our economic model. The present economic model is obsolete by now, and it should be clear to everybody. So we have to change that. By doing so, we can create a more just, more equitable, and more sustainable world for ourselves, but also more important for our future generations. Like Mona, I am a grandmother, I'm a mother. I had in my uterus, in my womb, 3 times water, carrying children, and it was a very unique experience. Our social, economic, and political decisions must be viewed from now on through an ecocentric view. ecocentric, because as I said, we are in this planet, we are living in a specific ecosystem. An important shift from the original entrenched ideas of civilization, which included, you know, the ideas of anthropocentrism, or the human is the center of the whole universe. No, that's an old idea. The idea that everything in nature constitutes a potential individual property, that's also is grown. And the myth that civilization can grow because we have limitless resources. No, we are in a planet and the planet has finite resources. The ecocentric principle is a way of thinking that puts the environment at the center of all our actions and decisions. It recognizes that all living beings, including humans, are interconnected and are interdependent with the natural world. By embracing this mind shift, we acknowledge the importance of preserving our planet, biodiversity, ecosystem, and natural resources. The benefits of adopting an ecocentric approach are very clear. It corroborates and it just goes in the direction of the previous speakers. It will help us address the urgent environmental issues that threaten our planet's survival. By prioritizing the environment, we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions, protect endangered species, and conserve natural resources as water. This ecocentric approach is taking some roots in Canada, where the recognition of the legal personhood of the Magpie River in Quebec has set the stage for granting rights to nature. So in 2021, the Innu First Nation of Ekunistashit and Mingani Regional County Municipality adopted joint resolutions granting the river a number of rights in accordance with Innu customary law, including the right to flow, the right to maintain its natural biodiversity, the right to be safe from pollution, as well as the right to sue, among others. These rights can be defended in court should they be breached. At the Parliament of Canada, member Alexandre Boleris has also tabled Bill C-271, a bill that will grant legal personhood to the St. Lawrence River, a river that has generated 60.1 billion Canadian dollars in economic activity just in 2022, and it has supported almost 400,000 jobs. I raise this point to show that protecting our river is not just important for environment and social reasons, but even also for the economy. In fact, more than half of our global GDP is materially dependent on nature, because it depends on natural resources, it depends on biodiversity, it depends on the ecological services. So here in Canada, for example, our wetlands alone provide natural services worth approximately 225 billion annually. It is to Canada and the world's political and economic benefit to ensure our rivers and natural ecosystem enjoy these protections. Last year, the Parliament of Canada updated the Canadian Environmental Protection Act by including a right to a healthy environment. Although this does not give direct representation of nature in our legal system, it could be a fair step to incorporate further our environment in Canadian federal law. There are various ways of granting rights to nature. In Ecuador, for example, as I mentioned, I just came from New York, enshrined two rights in its constitution: the right to exist and the right to flourish, giving Ecuadorian citizens the right to petition on behalf of nature. In the case of the Magpie River, a group of custodians are appointed to defend the river and assert the river's right in court. The proposed bill for the St. Lawrence River will follow a similar approach. Just recently, the Brazilian city of Linares has legally recognized part of the ocean as a legal person, making it the first time the ocean receives such legal protection. As we develop our understanding granting rights for nature, we do get confronted to some challenges. For example, by becoming a legal person, rivers could technically not only sue, but also get sued. However, a river does not intentionally cause damage. Questions arise also on the natural entities, intellectual property. In the case in Ecuador, the More Than Human Rights Project will argue that the Los Cedros cloud forest should receive co-authorship of a song for which the musician Cosmos Sheldrake recorded the forest voice, including birds, animals, and trees, and then mixed this with his own words. In concluding, let me say, there is something deeply flawed in the way we have structured our present socioeconomic world. Think about it. We have given corporations legal entities driven by profit. We have given them personhood. We have allowed them to exist with rights that sometimes exceed those of living, breathing people and organisms and ecosystem. Isn't it the time that we recognize the rights of rivers that have flowed for millennia? That we recognize the rights of forests that have nurtured life since time immemorial, and ecosystems that are through the heartbeat of our planet? The Ottawa River, the St. Lawrence, the Magpie, the mighty Amazon River, which presently is drying due to global warming, they are not just resources, they are life. They have voices, and it's time we listen. So we stand at a pivotal moment. By recognizing legal personhood for nature, we affirm that the earth is not merely a commodity to be exploited, but a living, breathing entity deserving of rights, protection, and respect. Let's this be our pledge, that in defending nature, we are defending ourselves, our futures, and of future generation yet unborn. Please promote and encourage people around you to continue advocating for rights of nature. And please, please consider me an ally in the Senate of Canada. Merci, gracias, miigwech, thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. That was wonderful. It's really good. I think I might have a question there that you mentioned something about the ocean. I'm kind of like excited about that. Well, now the floor is open for any questions that a participant might have. If you're thinking about sending in a question, this will be
You want to
your
receive some
time.
water?
Oh, okay. And I think, is that from Edgar?
Yep. I'd like
Okay.
to sing a song of, yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed for powerful messages, especially for water. And now I'd like to sing one of a song that talks about the power of song, power of water on my mother tongue language. Talks about power, peace. It comes everything. Whatever we are talking about, at the end of the time, it comes to a peaceful time. So I'd like to sing a song of water on my mother tongue language. A song goes like this. White boy. Yo mama lue sarana boe mandara wai. Yo mama lue sarana boe mandara wai. Yo wale asavalangi mariri hai. Oftombe vava oi mate. Oi van matu oi mama lue. So that is a song that talks about the power of water, the power of everything that we're having, the goodness of water. Everything comes back to nature of its own. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tomas. So if you have any questions that you want to ask our panelists, this is the time for you to get those questions in for those who are attending. That was a wonderful song to just kind of wrap everything up. You know, we've seen and hear the speeches, and then we have the demonstration of sun drawing of as an oral way of recording messages to Indigenous people. In some cultures, they are given and blessed with this wonderful way of recording them in the sand or writing them down or on parks of trees and things like that, as we are all moving in patterns, just like the water and our rivers. So I'm seeing there's no questions from the audience, David. And I have some questions that I'd like to ask, if that's okay. And any one of you can answer if you feel free to answer. And thank you so much again for all the wonderful stories. And the message is obviously very strong. We are all in this together, protecting not just our planet, but our environment and for the future of our generation. And when we think of Indigenous knowledge, that's our life. That's protection of our environment, and protection for our languages to pass on to our children. Everything that we do every day, it's all interconnected. So I guess my question would be for Senator Rosa. The first thing you talked a little bit about something about Brazil, who first initiated this recognition about the part of the ocean. Since I am from the biggest body of water in the Pacific, I thought about that when I was putting all this together, and I thought, imagine if the whole entire ocean, we talk about deep sea mining, what if we have that same, rights for the ocean? So tell us a little bit about what has happened in Brazil.
Yeah, it's the city of Linares, and they have several resources, biodiversity there, and so they have they initiated a way to give legal personhood to a part of the ocean. I can send you, I know your coordinates, I would send you more information on that, but it's something that we are start to reflecting, because if society gave personhood to corporations and gave them rights, and also we have gave sovereignty rights over ocean, over lands, and so why we cannot include also the nature that lives inside these lands, these oceans, this river? It's just logical. And so, of course, they have initiated given legal personhoods to rivers that are far, like for example in Quebec, the Magpie is very far, it's clean, it's pristine. Another completely different thing will be to give legal personhood to the St. Lawrence, where there are so many competing interests in the use of these waters. But what is important is that the dialogue and the conversation, it's on the table now. And that's what we need to do. With global warming, we know what's happening to the nation islands. They are disappearing. And we know that some countries are offering, immigration, they're offering other places where to go. But there are conditions. Are these conditions acceptable or not? And why we have to accept that we cannot stop global warming, because we're not doing enough. We're not doing enough. We're not stopping the pollution, which brings the greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So things are changing. The mindset and the way we do business has to change. We cannot continue with business as usual.
Yeah, and so I heard you talk a little bit about how I think as politicians or policymakers, let's shift that direction to more ecological, view of, because of the way that our world is, this is it. There's no other way out. Yeah. So thank you for mentioning that. Yes, Darlene, I think Dr. Darlene Sanders has something to say.
Thank you, Senator Rosa, and thank you to everybody for your contributions. There's so much learning involved here. What I'm wondering is how, because each Indigenous nation has their own creation story and own sovereignty and own understanding of relationship between their own lands, how can this concept of putting nature first really include, or not include, but really put at the forefront the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the sovereignty of Indigenous nations to care for their lands of origin. That's what maybe, I don't know if Rawiri, if you have some thoughts on that, or any of the panelists, I'd really like to hear.
I can start. I remember when we shift of managing rivers to managing watersheds. And, one thing is to say this is the river, but another thing is to say this is the catchment area, this is the whole watershed. And to try to bring together everybody that has a stake in the watershed. Of course, that implies more people, just not the government, but different communities, different, indigenous, but also settled cities that are along in these watersheds. And I've been in several discussions because sometimes, within these watersheds are these lakes, and the lakes is being polluted. And so when we all get together, at the end we say, well, we all want the same thing. We need water to swim, water to fish, water to drink. So if everybody agrees on this, yes, it's true. Everybody will come with different perspective and views, but at the end, we all want these three things, no? At least.
Very profound. I think one of the, we don't have any questions from the audience. I think they're just fascinated about all of your presentation, and it's like a really learning, a shifting in the way we learn. And I think the world has come to realize that, and everybody's starting to relearn, but also learning from us, because we, this is what we're doing. Somebody said, Aileen, thank you, the panelists, speakers, and support team. I have learned so much from you. I gain a new perspective on the spiritual and physical importance of water in all its form. Treating nature as a legal person shifts the focus of project impact assessment to protection from harm rather than, okay, now it's going, no, I can't, hang on. So basically, it's just saying thank you for such a wonderful way of presenting a new way of looking at things. So thank you for your questions. Another question that I want to address to Mona, if that's fine. You spoke a little bit coming from the grandmother perspective as an elder. Talking to us women, I want to bring that in for women, because I know as mothers, speak a little bit about that foundation of life, maybe not from your culture, but also the work that you've been doing as water. What does that represents to us, for us as the mothers who carry the next generation? So that it can give us a little bit of a more in-depth understanding from a human, because we're talking about water, but as a person, but also how does that relate in the two?
One of the things that really kind of shook me to really respond or to pay attention to what is happening to the water is my Hopi elder one of my elders said when I was about 14 years old, said, you know, that we must pay attention to the basic elements of life. And that one of them was, he said, look at the water. Where does your water come from? Know what's happening to your water. What is in your water? What are the plans that are being made about your water? And that was a place where I began to really pay attention to what was happening to my water. I am Havasupai. Havasupai means the people of the blue-green water. Havasupai are the guardians of the Grand Canyon. So these are the place where we are from, down in the bottom of the Grand Canyon. I grew up being told that everything in the water is my relative. It's part of me. And I was told that we live life in a narrow place and that it's important that we keep everything in balance in the place where we live. And that we as women are the bearers of water. We are like I said, you know, we are a vessel. We are the vessel that hold the water, that hold the life of our children, our future generations, the ones we will not see. And so everywhere we've gone as the grandmothers throughout the world, we go to the waters of the land, of the waters of each grandmother throughout the world, and we acknowledge it and make offerings and prayers for the water. So this is just basic. It's a basic consciousness that we all need to be cognizant of. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think I'm gonna pass that question on also over to Dr. Rawiri, because I know how if you can talk a little bit more about the relationship of water and like Elder Mona is talking about would for women being the foundation where the bearing of children, if there is any of that correlation for the Maori culture from where you're from. And because you have two amazing little helpers on your side, it'd be wonderful to hear from your point of view.
Kia ora tātou. Yeah, great question. In terms of our tribal narrative and the creation of our particular river system, our particular river, Whanganui, was given to us as a teardrop from the Sky Father. He could see that as part of our creation of the land that we live on, this is a great fish of an ancestor called Maui, that a mountain had been created, but that particular mountain was sort of left in the dark and had no one else with him. And so our Sky Father felt quite sorry for him and sent down two teardrops. One became our river. And so that is the foundation for our river. We don't see in any of our narrative that our particular waters have a particular gender. And in Te Ao Māori, in the Māori world, we don't have words for he or she. We just have the word ia, which is inclusive of all. And so, yeah, it's a little bit different. But we do see, though, as we're starting to see things translated, that we start to see the genderization of not only our waters, but other creations as well. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you so much. Maybe we'll give a little bit of time. We have probably about, David, how much time do we have? We'll be, ending off about 7 o'clock Pacific time. Oh, Darlene has a question.
I'd like to ask Mona this question about, or maybe to explain a little bit about the work that you've been doing with the ICOMOS, and then maybe a little bit about some of the other mechanisms for water protection that you've been in contact with, also with working with the international people that have been concerned with religious groups, bringing religious groups together.
Okay. I've been working with the organization called the International Council on Monuments and Sites. And it's been maybe about 6 years or so that I've been working with them. They are an organization that works sort of under the umbrella of UNESCO. I had gone to a conference on ancient rivers and water civilizations, and they were there. ICOMOS was part of the organizing sponsor, and they I presented on Indigenous waters and our spiritual and cultural and heritage. So I spoke to them, and I showed them a picture of a beautiful waterfall that is down at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And I asked them, isn't this beautiful? Isn't it worth saving? And they agreed. So I proposed to them that there were these tribes in Arizona that were trying to protect a sacred spring, and that's the Hopi, my other tribe, my father's people. And because I had been working with an organization called the Black Mesa Trust, who had been working to protect this sacred spring, which is down in the canyon, in the Grand Canyon, but has been historically, culturally, and spiritually a pilgrimage site for the Hopi. And so they were trying to protect it and establish it as a site that is protected by the historical societies. And so they weren't successful. They weren't successful with getting the Grand Canyon National Park to acknowledge that it was a sacred site. However, they did get the Navajo Nation, another tribe, the largest tribe in the country, to acknowledge that, yes, it is a historical, cultural, and spiritual site to the Hopi. So I asked ICOMOS to consider giving it recognition, to receive their shield acknowledging it as a historical, cultural, and spiritual site. And they had never worked with an Indigenous people before. And so I worked with them, and it took us about 5 years. On March 22nd in 2023, we successfully accomplished it. And so this spring, it's called Sipapu Spring. It has been designated under ICOMOS as a spiritual cultural heritage site. In probably about 2 months, there will be a sacred run by the Hopi. They will run on a path to the sacred site, and but the only way to get down, it's in the canyon. You can't drive down there or fly down, you have to walk. And so there'll be designated people who will be carrying the shield to that sacred site and make offerings. So that's the work I've done with Comos, and it would be something that others might want to consider doing that. And so I forgot what the other question was.
That's okay. Thank you. We're going to say goodbye to Dr. Rawiri. Thank you so much for your presentation, for all the wonderful stuff that you've been working on as well. So we've learned so much from you today, Kira. So he's just leaving. We have about 2 or 3 minutes left. Thank you so much, Mona. That was beautiful. It's just wonderful that we can have everybody here today. I think my last question to anybody who wants, I think I sent that message to Senator Rosa, but anybody can answer the question. How can we ensure that Indigenous voices remain at the center, the forefront of all the conversation around environmental activism or policy making, particularly as we continue to move forward with all our, coming together, uniting, talking about all of this, and everybody's been listening to kind of work that everyone is doing respectfully, because we're all in this together, and we have a big fight in front of us, and that's the climate change. That's the biggest issues, and as a Pacific Islander, that is something that it's no joke to us. It's a life or death, for small island nations. So how can we continue to continue to be, the voices in front? For anybody who wants to answer this question, please go ahead.
I can give you a quick answer. It's Pete, and one of the things I think is that in mitigating a lot of the damage being done to water, but also the world as a whole, is they're finding that Indigenous methods of fire fuel management, and also the way we manage the land itself, is the quickest way to start mitigating some of the damaging effect of wildfires and floods. And I think if we can just keep ensuring that we bring those forward to say, look, the reason this is going sideways is because you're doing this, and so you and I think bringing the knowledge in a quicker pace, and also just keeping on that all the time to say, well, we'll fix this, right? We'll show you how to do that, and I think that's going to be vital.
Thank you so much, Chief Pitt, for saying that. And I think we're going to, that's the question. And then Darlene, you want to close us off with how we can move forward our action plan to moving forward for this, and for PPP, we'll continue to have this kind of conversation, and this is something that we believe so much in, and centering obviously Indigenous voices and Pacific Island voices, and that's our job, and we're here, and we're glad to host this wonderful webinar event and learning with everybody.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody, and also to really support any calls for the rights of rivers close to you and internationally, whether it's the St. Lawrence in Canada, recognizing the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples benefits all people. It's not just for Indigenous peoples. It's really for the future generations of all people, plants and animals, and keeping in mind the messages we've heard today, that water is sacred, and it is this spiritual center to all of life. So I really want to say thank you, and so much gratitude and love to each and every one of you, and for the knowledge and experience that you've brought to the table. And I really hope that we can continue to work together.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Rest well and go well, as David would say. Thank you, David, for your hard work, and for all the sponsors. Thank you, Mona.
Have a great
Thank you,
Nacha
Pete.
and Nanya Stenla.
Yes, thank you so much.